I got told off by an American for stating my friend was black. The correct term is African American. Yet I'm Irish. My friend is Irish. My childhood home in Ireland is a very old cottage, and there's a big stack of turf outside. Buses of tourists would stop to have a look. They would come in our gates, climb the pile of turf, knock it all down, maybe 50 people each wanting a picture of their own, and then they would steal pieces. It was always the American or Japanese tourists. I used to run out and start barking at them, usually made them confused enough to run away. At a reconstructed Viking village in Sweden, I was asked if the government treats us right, as if it was a reservation for Vikings. I told an American that Australian money looked different to USA money. She told me it was illegal to print your own money. Man asked me where I was from. I said Poland. He said that it's pronounced Portland. A friend of a friend won't come to Aldgate, Brick Lane in London because she's afraid of Jack the Ripper. What? Tell her not to worry, Sherlock Holmes will protect her. My great-granny had a house near a nature trail in the UK. It was remote, so she would often leave doors unlocked. Once she came out of her bedroom to find us tourists sitting in her living room. They proceeded to tell her the service was terrible and they'd been waiting half an hour for a cup of tea and lunch to be served, and could they have some chairs put out so they can take it out on the lawn? She quickly threw them out, her house. When I told a group of America students that I am from Ukraine, they said, "Oh, so you are basically Russian." It was after the war started. In Kansas, a man said to me, "If English was good enough for Jesus, it's good enough for me." I didn't bother trying to respond. I am confused every time I hear an American insist that my neighbor is African American when he's never ever been to neither Africa or America. He's third generation Swede and British before that. I'm Australian, and I once had an American tell me my English was very good. Have had the same thing as a New Zealander. I said, "Thanks, I've been practicing since I learned to speak." Bilingual American here, I was speaking French to my son, and someone complained loudly how Spanish is taking over. I work in Edinburgh City Centre, and the worst question I'm asked every day is, "Why won't you accept dollars? It's real money, you know." Rage, rage. Got yelled at Disney because I didn't join in with the Pledge of Allegiance at the flag ceremony. Told them I'm British, I should join in anyway. In Ireland, an American asked me where the best place to see leprechauns was. She was serious. I had to tell her they aren't real. She wasn't happy. I was asked how haggis was made. Elle explained it was traditionally boiled in a sheep's stomach. They asked how we get the haggis back out of the sheep. I read about an American who complained about a sign saying genuine Italian pizza because pizza is American. The pizzeria was in Italy. About 20 years ago, when the big tsunami hit Indonesia and Thailand, one of my online American friends was very worried for me because of the tsunami. I had to explain to her that I live in Denmark, and if that tsunami had hit me, we'd all be in a lot of trouble. An American guest of mine asked me, amazed, why I call my city Firenze when it's properly called Florence. I work on a South African reserve. Had American guests ask why the lions aren't on a vegan diet. Had an American woman ask me if the moon here in South Africa is a different moon than the one they have in Texas. I was a UK tourist in LA, and a Hermosa Beach surf dude asked me what it was like to live in a country with no beaches. When I say I'm from South Africa and they're like, "Where's that?" The clue is literally in the name. I'm Scottish. Was asked if we had TVs in Scotland. Didn't have the heart to tell them the Scots invented the television. I saw an American TikToker who got 500 euros worth of speeding tickets in Germany because she thought there was no speed limit in the whole country, like on Autobahn. I overheard an American saying he was rightfully the King of Wales and wanted 800 years of tax to be paid to him. He didn't like it when we spoke Welsh. There was an American in our store who tried to get served before everyone else because he was American, and we should be grateful that he is here. I'm Polish, and I was asked multiple times, how was life during World War II, and was I forced to concentration camp? I'm 20, by the way. I was in Prague with my Glaswegian boyfriend. An American tourist approached us asking for directions. Boyfriend gave said directions. She stared at him for a second, then proceeded to curse at him because no one in this shesh heap can speak English. I then decided to translate for her. He does have a thick accent. She then told me that I needed to work on my accent. I am English. It isn't quite accurate? What? I got told that Australians can't be gay because only people in America can be gay. I was told by an American. I was in Mexico from England, and an American couldn't understand why it took me 9 hours to get there, and her only 3. I'm South African, and while working in the States, I was asked if it was my first time wearing clothes. I was once asked by a tourist why I am not in school, and am I too poor to go to school? It was summer in Jamaica, and I was 13 enjoying the beach. Fellow Cornish, my house is an old church, and I recently had a tourist ringing the old bell attached to my house. When confronted, they said, 1/2, 2/2. There's no sign saying I can't ring it. Me, there's no sign saying you can either. Now feck off. When I worked at a knitwear factory making knitted clothes, and an American once asked me where we kept the colorful sheep, not realizing we dye the wool, we don't have purple sheep. I asked an American what their nationality was in their passport, and they said white. I got a story for American tourists in the wild. I'm a German exchange student. One of my classmates found out and asked me if I knew some random German guy, since Germany's a tiny town in Canada. I just walked away. Norway here. An American colleague visiting at our Norwegian office seriously asked why we had white people working in the cafeteria. I'm Norwegian, and in 2014, I worked at the Norwegian Pavilion in Epcot, Walt Disney World. Americans usually didn't believe that I could be Norwegian because I didn't have an accent. Apparently, you can't be perfectly bilingual. My friends with accent had apparently been paid to make the illusion more believable. Even when I spoke Norwegian in their face, I was pretending. We also apparently ride polar bears in the streets here. I was in Estonian language class with an American girl, and she asked me how the hell do Estonian children learn this language? I told her that people from other countries have different default languages other than English. She didn't believe me. Was asked by an American which part of Japan New Zealand was. I was shopping with my mom in the States. We were speaking Portuguese. The cashier asked if we were speaking Jewish. I was at a cafe in Stockholm when an American girl came up, asked if I knew when the next train to Asgard leaves. She was totally serious. Someone I know doesn't agree that Egypt is in Africa. I asked them where they think it is. They said Saudi. I'm Scottish, went on a cruise a few years ago. I had heard that Americans can sometimes say pretty dumb things. I didn't believe this until 1:30. I was talking with one people when I was on the boat, and an American asked me to turn off my accent because he couldn't understand me. An American tourist got out of his hire car to bang on my window for not turning right on a red light in London. I got asked once if Latin America had a president, like Latin America as in the whole South America, a single president. Had an American asked me as I was ashamed of my grandpa's actions during WW2 and how I felt about my family being on wrong side of the war. I'm Scottish. My sister's roommates in her student exchange program were shocked she knew about AC/DC, Nike, and the Beatles. They were American. She's Israeli. American tourists in my restaurant in Canada couldn't believe we had, and I quote, people of color here because they thought we were albino. Not sure if it had something to do with the province Alberta, was too stunned to ask. We were in Ontario.